Now, turning to our program, please welcome Joel Brennan, President of the Greater Milwaukee Committee, to introduce our speaker.
Thank you, Kent. I'm pleased to be able to introduce you to Dr. Brenda Cassellius, who was raised by a single mother, grew up in public housing in Minnesota, and learned through experience the profound impact an education and a connected community can have on the life outcomes of children. Dr. Cassellius started her career as a special education paraprofessional, was a social studies teacher, and school leader. Since that start in special education instruction, Dr. Cassellius has spent 3 decades as a leader at the classroom, school, district, and statewide levels. She held leadership roles in the Minneapolis and Memphis Public Schools. For 8 years, she served as Minnesota's Commissioner of Education, appointed by former Governor Mark Dayton. This role is the equivalent of Wisconsin's elected state superintendent, and she overlapped in her time in that role with Tony Evers, then the head of DPI and now Wisconsin governor. In that role, Dr. Cassellius worked across partisan lines to enact reforms that resulted in new funding for schools, all-day kindergarten, state-funded preschool, anti-bullying legislation, and the highest graduation rates on record in Minnesota. She moved from her role in Minnesota to lead the Boston Public Schools as superintendent a few years later. During her tenure, Dr. Cassellius led the district successfully through COVID, secured $110 million in new funding, and passed new high school graduation standards and historic admission policies. In February of this year, Dr. Cassellius was selected as superintendent of the Milwaukee Public Schools. Initially slated to begin her job in July, she recognized immediately the enormity of the task in front of her and accelerated her start date to March 15th. Items on her desk when she took over the district included the withholding of state funding related to missing financial reports, external audits of MPS operations and classroom activities that were ordered by Governor Evers after revelations of fiscal challenges in 2024, declining enrollment numbers, classroom vacancies, and the poor outcomes for far too many kids being educated anywhere in the city of Milwaukee. Oh, and briefly into her tenure, the discovery of lead paint issues in schools that had not been addressed for many years. Needless to say, Dr. Cassellius had a full plate on March 15th, and the challenges have not subsided in the last 6.5 months. However, she has been tireless in her outreach to the community. She has immediately addressed some of the financial and personnel issues she inherited at MPS, and she's been committed to setting a new tone and winning back confidence and commitment as a partner for many of us in this community. She has already clearly demonstrated that she is first and foremost dedicated to creating better futures for Milwaukee kids. I hope you will join me in welcoming Dr. Brenda Cassellius.
Well, Joel's been just a terrific partner, one of the first people that I got an opportunity to meet when I came to Milwaukee, and I've just been blessed with your friendship, so thank you, Joel, and also Joanne Anton, 2 incredible people who have been wonderful, and I don't know if Chuck Pruitt is also in here. These are 3 people that I met right away when I first came, other than the mayor, who also has been tremendously supportive of me, and so many others in this room. Just really grateful to be among all of you and honored to be here addressing you and sharing with you a little bit about my journey so far in Milwaukee and how good it is. I have a lot of people who often ask, how do you like Milwaukee? I'm like, well, I really like it a lot, actually. The lakes are beautiful. I think it's a little bit of a foodie town. The work is hard, but I think it's winnable. I really, really do. And so I wanted to share with you just a little bit today about where my journey has been. And the past 6 months, it hasn't been easy. Can everybody hear me back there? I'm projecting okay? Good. It hasn't been easy, but it has been rewarding, and I often say that anything worth doing is hard, usually, and whenever there's children on the end of that work, it's always worth doing. So every day I wake up and figure out how I can just do a better job each and every day for children in Milwaukee. So this year, we've really grounded our work in 3 core pillars: academic excellence, operational excellence, and safe and welcoming schools. These are the pillars that I heard early on in many of my discussions with the community and with internal discussions with the team at MPS, as well as what was written in the operational and academic audits that we heard Joel reference earlier that the governor had produced for us. It is an immense amount, a gift to a superintendent to have audits be done upon your arrival, because you have a blueprint for the work ahead, and it has talked to thousands of people and did immense engagement looking at the data, real evidence on what was happening at the district. And so these were the 3 key pillars, I believe, that came out and that were the reflection of the board's commitment as well. I've also had 6 months of incredible support from the community. I mentioned a few of the individuals already, but just you can see their names right there and how incredibly supportive they were. I went to them early on. There were some things I wanted to move quickly to get a start on the operational audit, knowing that there was deep level of culture work we had to do, knowing that I needed to build almost an entire new cabinet in the district, knowing that we had to work on our communications team, both internal and external, to begin getting that out, start resetting our relationship with the media so that they could report on things and the work that we were beginning to do. Also to show transparency and to begin the really hard work of earning back the trust of Milwaukee. So very, very grateful to these different foundations and organizations who have been tremendously supportive of me personally, as well as MPS in our work going forward. I also had the opportunity to go out and meet with community members, the NAACP. I met with the First Nations Parent Committee. I've met in several neighborhoods. I've also been able to meet with the Northside community, as well as some 9 listening tours that I did going out into each of the board districts, and we invited aldermen there. So I've met with the city council, which was tremendously beneficial to talk with them as well. And begin to start looking at what are your hopes and dreams for the district and where do we need to go, and how can we work together, which is the most important piece. How do we leverage the full capacity of the community, because I really do think it's going to be an all hands on deck effort. It's going to take every single one of us pulling on the same rope to make sure that we are pulling our kids up from poverty, from lack of access, lack of opportunity, and create greater equity across the district in all of our schools and all of our neighborhoods. I've also been tremendously supportive that Mayor Cavalier Johnson has been wonderful. Early on, because I was in Boston and used to mayoral control of schools, so when Joel said I raised $110 million, that was kind of easy. All I needed to do was sell one person on the vision of the schools and where we were headed, and that was Marty Walsh at the time, who later became the Secretary of Labor under Joe Biden. But he was tremendously supportive of the vision that I had for supporting children, the vision that the community set forward for us in terms of making sure that we had a strong focus on rigor in our high schools, and creating an equitable playing field for all of our students. And so that was tremendously rewarding work. Also, COVID happened, was also tremendously challenging. But through it all, throughout any challenge, all you can do is pick yourself up, do your best job each and every day, and take another step forward. So I've had a great opportunity here to begin this deep level of work with the community as well. And I'm happy to say now I'm here I've been to one other Rotary Luncheon. So Dr. Tina Owens-Moore invited me to that one, which was wonderful to begin my tenure here working with all of you. Also, I just want to mention with the mayor, I asked for a seat on his cabinet and he gave it to me. And so we've been working tremendously close together, just yesterday talking about vaccines with Health Commissioner Tortoritis, on the lead work. We're working on youth violence work together, and hopefully in the future be working on some housing as we begin to face some of the difficult decisions facing the board and the district around closing emerging schools as well. Well, like Joel said, when I first got here, this is what hit me, was lead. We had lead in our schools, and we needed to make sure that they were cleaned up, that we were able to stabilize the paint, and that we ensured that they were safe for our kiddos. This is super important. It's even more important that the time that they spend at home is also safe. So anything you can do to help us continue to get students and children within the community tested for lead would be greatly beneficial to them and their health and their cognitive development in the future as we begin to work together to address lead not only within our schools but in the broader Milwaukee community. There's tremendous work to be done in this area. So we put together a plan. When I got here, immediately had to shift my leadership team, began to work with the city on plans for remediation of the lead, and we were able to clear 50 schools this summer with the help of JCP construction. It was hard. We had hot temperatures that were very challenging for them to paint in, and chipping away the paint. You can see them there in those hot temperatures without ventilation. You can't open the windows because then it's going to blow everything around. So that was difficult. HEPA and then we had the floods. And then we had mercury in one of our schools. So it was like constant, readjusting and getting this together, but we got it done and schools got opened and we had a great start to school, which was great. We are now 22 schools into our 50 additional schools that were built between 1950 and 1978. So feeling like we're really good on track to meet the rest of that cleanup by December 31st, which is what we promised to the community. Again, another big challenge for us was our financial situation. I want to be clear that this wasn't about the bottom line in the books. There was not mismanagement happening in MPS. I think it's really important to say that. But our systems, the state moved to a different system about 6 years ago, and they allowed the biggest district in Wisconsin to not be compliant with their big system. Well, this has continued to plague the district and cause problems with their overall accounting at the state level and how they send out money after they account for the biggest district, how they send out the rest of their funding to all other districts. And so the languages of our system and their system just simply did not speak with one another. And they still don't speak with one another. We are still working through that code and language for them to speak together. It's really called accounting codes, and making sure that our local codes are matching what's called the Wisconsin Uniform Reporting Chart of Accounts that they have in their system. So we're working on developing that chart of accounts, working on developing our financial manuals with our partners at MGT, who are also helping us project manage to ensure that we're staying on track, we're meeting deadlines, and we have now finished our FY24 audit. We are on our way to finishing our FY25 audit, which is due in December, and then we are building the new system so that when we push our data, they actually recognize our data and they don't spit out in what's called validation errors to us. And then we have to, figure out which code it is, and that's just very labor intensive and can introduce risk into the control environment. So it's establishing the new protocols, establishing the new control environment, making sure that we have properly trained folks in our finance department who are able to lead this work, and then making sure that our technology systems are speaking to one another. So that work's well underway. We anticipate that we will be fully finished with all of this work, with the two systems being fully compliant. Cross my fingers, in the next budget year. So a lot of work that's going on in our financial reporting and making sure that we are accurately accounting for our books and making sure that we have reestablished trust with the community around and been good stewards of the public's trust I also, when I get in these rooms, want to always thank Milwaukeeans for the passage of the referendum. We would be in a very different spot right now had you all not passed the referendum, and so I'm immensely grateful to you for the passage of that. The progress of 6 months in literacy plan, I hired one of the best literacy specialists in the state, and I believe in the nation. She is Dr. Gabby Belli-Menes, stole her from Madison. I got to meet her at an aspiring superintendent program when she was in that program for women of color. It was a program that I did executive coaching in, and so I was able to get to know her very deeply and her work and ask her advice. And so when I got the job in Milwaukee, I called her up and said, hey, I want you to join the team. And she came and joined the team, and she just has been this incredible bright light for all of us. And it's a slog because she's only been with us now since July 1. But we are putting together, I've launched our literacy work, and we are working with our teachers now to get them 40 hours of training, moving from 3Qing to the science of reading, making sure that that's embedded, that our teachers are using our high quality materials, which were already funded and bought for with the ESSER funding from the district, but teachers weren't using them explicitly. Some were, of course, but not all of them. And so we want to make sure that everybody's trained, everybody has the high quality materials, they know how to use those materials, and we are then doing walkthroughs to make sure that they're practicing that and that they are embedding that within their practice K-12. So this year our focus is what we call level 1 teaching, which is this really good first teaching, and making sure that all of our teachers have a grounding and a foundation in the science of reading. So as I think about where, did I skip one? No, okay. As I think about where we're headed, we have done those 9 listening sessions, so we've been doing a lot of strategic planning. We have begun to look at what the community is saying. I'm now doing and shifting from the external engagement and stakeholder engagement to more internal, so I'm meeting with my department chairs, meeting with all of the, going out and visiting schools and talking to teachers on the ground about things that they need, what are their hopes and dreams, and working on that strategic direction, which will have the mission, the vision of the organization. One of the findings of the governor's audit was that we should redo our strategic plan. So we're revisiting that with the board, so they'll have working sessions. A lot of the work around our facilities, as many of you know, we also are oversized, and we have a tremendous amount of underutilized buildings. This is causing us to have large vacancies because we could combine classrooms, we could combine support, we could have better opportunities for our students, more personnel in the classroom, which is extremely important in terms of making sure we have a highly qualified, permanent teacher in every single classroom. I've been telling my team this is the most basic thing that we can do, and that is to provide a high quality, caring, and competent teacher for every single student. So the facilities plan is going to help us do that because we'll be able to combine resources and maximize resources for our students and give them better opportunity across the entire city. But that comes with a lot of pain. That comes with going into communities, having tough conversations about which schools have to close or merge or be repurposed so that we can make sure that our kids are getting the best education and the greatest opportunity at that education. So not only are we going out with strategic planning this fall, we'll be going out with facility planning. Perkins Eastman has been doing some work around the data and capturing the data. They have an advisory who is looking at all of that data and have provided some thoughts on that. And now we'll go to the community and talk with the community about the choices before them. But I know that there are some really tough, hard choices that need to come for us to be able to maximize the opportunity for our children. As for budget, I have been forecasting since I came that there is a tremendous structural imbalance within our budget. We have been depending on a $75 million vacancy adjustment within our budget. We cannot we just can't do that any longer. It's not a good way to budget. It's not a good use of money to have vacancies sit out there. If you have a vacant position, it should be filled. If it's vacant for more than a year, 2 years, then we probably didn't need it. So we're going to be doing all of this assessment within the district and decide where we have vacancies, where we don't have vacancies, and we're going to need to make some cuts. I anticipate those cuts will be around $100 million over the year or 2 years, and I'll be bringing those recommendations to the board throughout the fall and into the winter as we finalize our budget for the next year. And that is another, reason why we have to deal with facilities too. I think a lot of people think, close the buildings and you save all this money. The savings really comes over time when you close buildings, not immediate. So it'll be over time that we save tens of millions of dollars when we start closing schools. The professional culture was another finding that was in all of our audits, actually. So when I got the governor's first audit, I saw this sentence in there that said a culture of fear and retaliation. Obviously, any leader, that is a huge concern. You don't want to work in an environment or have your employees work in an environment where they don't feel safe and welcome. So there's a tremendous amount of work to do in terms of reestablishing a professional work culture. I think that is about setting expectations. We've passed an ethics policy just recently, a few weeks ago. We had recommendations brought forward. We hired an outside firm to help us coalesce our policies around ethics, create one ethics policy, and now we'll begin to do training. That is really important because it sets the expectation for what is expected for professional behavior within the district. And then we now have something to train our staff on and to start conversations about. So we're going to start doing that work around our culture and climate. And also there's just deep level work with filling vacancies and our HR department being resistant to change. And so this is all public on the documents, so I'm just sharing it with you transparently of the work that we have to do. They're open, our HR department is open to that feedback. They want to do better. We just hired our new chief of HR. We're going to work with DPI on some of our licensing issues, see where there's flexibility. We have a Grow Your Own program that has more capacity, I believe, to help us move from paraprofessionals who love our children, have been in the schools, become teachers, and also ways in which we can better partner with our universities and colleges locally who are doing teacher preparation, because MPS should be the place where everybody wants to work. And so I'm hoping to be able to go out and develop these brand new partnerships with Marquette, with the University of Milwaukee, University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, and Madison, and all across the entire state. Also, we have vacancies other than teacher vacancies. So we have vacancies with social workers, counselors, in our food nutrition areas. We have our building service workers, our facility workers. We have 10,000 employees in Milwaukee Public Schools who help us with our 156 schools. And so if you know anybody interested, I'm gonna do my little plug here, who needs a job, or you're out there, you work with employment folks, let them know. We're hiring and we are anxious to have them become part of the family. Attendance is a continued issue. I've been working with Kent on that and his team. We've had several meetings figuring out, like, how do we work with the proactive pieces of attendance to get children to school, which is the pieces that we can own around just engagement, making sure that kids feel safe, that they are welcome, that they have a safe route to school, and transportation isn't a barrier for families, that they're enrolled in the right programming that fits their needs, particularly our students who speak another language or students who are receiving special education services. Those things matter with getting kids to school. The kids tell me they want good food, so we did salad bars this fall, and making sure that they had grab-and-go salads for them. But then we get to the point of where, they're not coming and they have chronic attendance. That's where Kent and his team can be good partners in terms of making sure that our families understand their responsibility too, and helping us out and making sure that kiddos get to school on time. We also have canvassers. You might have seen a headline of me knocking on doors. I'm not too shy to go out and start making phone calls myself and knocking on doors and having one-on-one conversations with students and with families to tell them the importance of coming to school, because every day that they choose not to come to school is a day that is a possibility that other decisions can be made that impact the rest of their lives. We also are working on the safety part of our school district. Some of you may know, we have 300 school safeties in our elementary and high schools, middle schools too. And they help us with monitoring our doors, our video equipment that we have in our schools. They help address discipline issues within the school, and they just provide another set of eyes to our administrators. And then we have school safety resource officers. I think on the very first day I started Milwaukee Public Schools was the day that we had SROs in our high schools. So we have 25 SROs in our high schools, and they have been terrific. They're all MPS grads, which is wonderful. Or they all were last year. They may have had some shifts this year, I'm not sure. I'll have to check that, but they were all MPS grads last year. They are developing wonderful relationships with our students, and most of our, if not all of our principals have said that they've been valuable members of their school community. So that has been going really well, and we haven't had a lot of rancor from folks who don't want to have police in our schools, and so I think that that has been a really good partnership with the MPD and the mayor and his team. And so I'm grateful for their support. The Safety Hub will be where we are monitoring all of the video for the whole year from all of our cameras within our schools. We got thousands of cameras within our schools, and trying to get that all in one place. We don't have that working just yet, but we are working toward that. So this is the urgency work ahead, and making sure then that we have protocols that align with our fire, our first responders, and our police. And so we've shifted our codes and response protocol, and we now have all new signs at all of our schools so that we're completely aligned and there's no sense of confusion when first responders are coming out to our schools, so that we have strong communication with our first responders and our school personnel, and that people fully understand that and have been trained in it. And so really excited about this work that's coming ahead. And what I want to do is just stop a little early. So when I was commissioner in Minnesota, one of the things that I liked was that when they get the commissioner in the room, people in the audience actually want to ask questions and have time for questions. And that's a kind of style that I really like. So you have the superintendent in the room. I'll use this as a listening and learn session. What is it that you want to know? What are your hopes and dreams about Milwaukee Public Schools? And how can we better partner and be better partners to all of you? So I'll go ahead and take your questions.
Terrific. Thank you so much. And it looks like a lot of people are taking you up on that. So as the line forms, if you can please introduce yourself before you state your question.
Oh, I thought everybody was going to the restroom. Or just walking out, like, okay.
Thank you, Tom Gale, and thank you for being here today. And you have all of us are not envious of the task you have ahead of you. It's wonderful. A couple of years ago, before COVID, Rotarian Barbara Velez organized about 40 or so Rotarians and UWM students to go into the Brown Street Academy. Spend an hour a week there with tutoring a student. Probably one of the more rewarding things that I've been involved with since I've been in Rotary. Is that opportunity available to us again now that COVID is behind us?
I would love that. We have not ramped up yet our volunteer work. We just established an Office of Community Family Engagement and Partnerships. So we will be ramping up that work with our partnerships, but I would absolutely love that. We need readers. We're working with Forward Scholars this year, as well as City Year, a few other tutoring programs, and I just think that children getting one-on-one support is tremendously valuable. And so we would absolutely welcome that and many other ways that we could partner. So sky's the limit.
Hi, thanks for being here. My name's Hannah Paul, and I'm wondering, is MPS doing anything or programming around reckless driving, knowing that's a huge problem between the 11 to 18-year-old age range? And then I'm wondering if you could share about the Twilight Centers that are offered in the evening, the Twilight Center programs through Milwaukee Rec.
So I know that we do driver's ed, and so I would think that it's doing in it's being taught in driver's ed, how to drive appropriately. We haven't done much advocacy on the reckless driving that I'm aware of. Tony might know more, but we haven't, not that it's not an important issue, it's just I've only been here 6 months. But I have talked with not the governor, but the mayor about it, and he is really interested in this issue and has been working on this issue. But I haven't done anything personally on that. As for the Twilight programs, I just learned about those, and I don't have a deep knowledge about that just yet. So happy to get back to you, but I don't know a lot about Milwaukee Rec yet, other than it's a jewel. I've not heard one bad thing about Milwaukee Rec, and actually I stole the leader of Milwaukee Rec and made him my leader of my Chief and Family Community Engagement. Quick little story, when I was interviewing for the position, and Tina might know this, when I was around the table in the final interview, they told me about Milwaukee Rec and said that we had, that it was part of MPS, that we ran the park and rec for the city. And I was like, you're kidding, right? Because I'm such a camp kid. I came from Minneapolis, where we have parks everywhere in every single neighborhood. It's such a part of growing up. When I was a kid, I used to go to the rec center all the time. When you're a kid growing up in poverty, that's like your second family. And so I said, oh my gosh, that's the cherry on the top. But I just, honestly, you've seen everything that I've had to work through in the last 6 months. I just haven't had time, because it's so well functioning already. It's like on my back burner things to do while I'm dealing with the front burners right now. So I'll find out more, but Mary Urbina McCarthy's back there, can get your name and we can find out and give you more information on that program.
Awesome. Thank you for being willing to come to MPS and undertake a lot of known challenges up front. I'm Brent F. Wasson, also an MPS parent of 2 kids.
Yay.
Interested in the school closure, consolidation, merger, however you want to say it. This has probably been a topic since before my kids were born, and frankly, MPS has done somewhere near zero about it for well over a decade. What is the timing and process to address that? Because I, like you, agree that it has a lot to do with resource consolidation and then really giving kids the best opportunity.
I think, I haven't had a conversation with the board about it yet, and they'll be the ones who will ultimately make the decisions, and it's a hard decision. My job as a superintendent is to bring those recommendations, but to have fully vetted it with the community so they know what the trade-offs are. And so they know what the opportunities are going to be that we can then create for our kiddos. And so I'm doing that work now, trying to understand the Perkins Eastman work that they've been doing, because they're more about what's the capacity of the building, how is it being utilized, what are the advantages, and I'm trying to look at it from the lens of what academic opportunities can we give, what co-curricular opportunities can we give, how can we maximize our staffing in our buildings, how can we provide a library into every single school. And so I'm working on something that I worked on in Boston to get the mayor behind me, which was called the Quality Guarantee. What is the basic services that every child deserves? If I ask this room, how many of you as a child had a librarian in your school? Raise your hand. Keep your hands up if you had gym. Gym every day. Still a lot of hands, right? How many of you had art in school? How many of you had music in school? How many of you had a playground? How many of you had a counselor in high school? Our kids deserve to have all of that, right? And so I'm hoping that we come out with I'm probably not going to call it the quality guarantee, because that was in Boston, but something very similar that says this is the basic, and then what do we need to give kids who are not yet speaking English? What do we need to give kids who are autistic? or have other disabilities, and what kind of spaces do they need, like sensory rooms and calm down rooms, et cetera. And then what do we need to give for students who live in poverty, who have had lack of access, and do we give a different differential for that? So we'll be creating that and bringing that out to the community, and then we'll be talking with the community about those opportunities that we can create if in fact we're able to do these things with the closing and merging of schools. I think already the timing is right now. So I'm going to start going out to the community probably in early November and talking to them about the facility work and our budget and the assumptions within our budget. And then we'll start talking some early decisions about some low-hanging fruit, for better word for it, which is, I mean, I know for a fact I have schools that have less than 100 kids in it right now. I know that I have grades 7 and 8 where I have 25 kids in the grade and one teacher is trying to teach all subjects to that 7th grade class of kids. You know they're not getting the rigor that they deserve or need to be prepared for high school. And so it's those kind of tough conversations to go back to the school community and say, we're going to merge these two schools. What do you think about it? Here's the opportunities we can give. And hopefully those schools will be in close enough proximity that it won't be too challenging for a family. But we know that there will be some families who will have to make sacrifices for these moves. That will be hard. But what we need to do is just promise that every family will have a good handshake and they'll have priority in choosing their schools.
I'm John Hine, and thank you for coming.
Hi, John.
One of your early slides said there was going to focus on literacy and reading in the early grades. I'm a Forward Scholar tutor.
Oh, thank you for that.
How does that program dovetail with the program that you're now going to be implementing at the Milwaukee Public Schools?
Well, Carrie might be a better one to answer that question, but I think that they're also working on the science of reading, and they're working closely with our reading team and aligning that work. And so you guys do more pull out with our kids for individual work. We're working on a tier 1 model, which is all teachers getting the information, whereas I believe Forward Scholars works more on tier 2 types of interventions, which is students who need a little bit more help or just a little bump or a little bit more attention, get that attention from folks like yourself. So we're working closely. It's a much smaller program right now. I think you piloted a few years ago, and then now you're in Milwaukee Public Schools. How many schools are you in now? 9 MPS schools. And so, those tutors are invaluable to the students that they serve.
My question is the program that the Forward Scholars do similar or hopefully identical to what?
Yes, they're working, the strategies are very similar for tier 2 strategies, but what we're doing on our literacy plan is tier 1, which is a little bit different than the strategy you would use for pulling singular kids out for individual tutoring is different than what you would do for whole group instruction. Yeah.
Hi, Brenda. Welcome to Milwaukee.
Thank
My
you.
name's Tom Lujak. I worked in higher education for 20 years and realized, though, that not everybody is suited for college. A 4-year degree may not be the answer. So I'm curious whether or not you're interested in exploring or expanding what we used to call shop class.
Yes.
When I went to school. It's now vocational training. There's some marvelous examples around the state where kids are working in essentially a manufacturing plant right on their college campus,
Yeah.
or high school campus. My granddaughters up in the Eau Claire area are
Yeah.
in the Oliva Strum district in a marvelous program. It seems to me like that would be a great investment for kids who we know don't have college in their future.
Yeah, very interested. So when I first became commissioner, we were forwarding policies with Stephen Rosenstone, who was the chancellor of the MINSCU system back then, that were grade 10 through grade 14. We worked with DevEd and kind of trying to get rid of like the developmental ed programming and start looking at career placement programming and getting kids into careers and start those pathways much earlier. We actually went back to 9th grade and shifted policy so that 9th graders could take some dual enrollment courses and make that eligible for them. I think that that's important. There's just a lot of incredible opportunity. I'm excited with the work that and the potential of possibly working with the Education Committee of the Business Chamber, particularly with some of our high schools, and not just on manufacturing, but on just the labor side as well. So can we look at business, labor, and do those partnerships to get those career pathways going? Some people have probably read and heard me talk about junior high schools. Anyone in here go to a junior high school when they were younger? And remember all your exploratory classes that you went to when you were in junior high school? You took like shop, you did welding, you were able to do graphics, design and learn how to graph and do architecture and woodworking. And we have a bike shop, we have at North Division, we have a dental hygiene lab that's not being used. Our high schools have the potential because they have some of the old equipment, whereas so many other high schools had, when we went to College for All, they threw out their voc ed machines and things. We've kept a lot of that. So Obama High School has a whole HVAC lab, cosmetology lab. I mean, there are really great things going on in our high schools that could, I think, grow. So before we had one high school region superintendent, I've now created 2 high school regional superintendents, but I call them academic superintendents. Both of them have a deep knowledge in tech and in careers. So I'm really excited. One is Erin Shapiro, who was at Bradley Tech High School, is now my high school superintendent, and I brought over Dr. Elia Brueggemann, who is a Rotarian. And she is incredibly interested and also understands agriculture. She's from Sleepy Eye, Minnesota. She was my assistant commissioner who did this work for me in Minnesota. So I expect in the future there will be a lot of high school programming, and all of you and your businesses that you lead, we'd love to partner with you and get you some employees, although MPS is going to be quite the competitor too.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you for being here with us today, Dr. Cassellius. I'm Corey Zetz.
Someone else is going to have to, when your time is up. So I'll go forever unless somebody tells me it's time to go. Okay.
Okay, and I'm a proud parent of a MPS current freshman.
Yay.
And I really appreciate you coming in now, especially after that list of challenges that Joel read to start us off. I mean, such a challenging time to lead. And so, and I appreciate your comments about the community's role and that, the future of Milwaukee students is Milwaukee's future. So I just wanted to ask you, since you have a couple hundred people here who are really engaged in our community, what you would ask of us. What is your ask of us to help support MPS and Milwaukee's children?
Well, already a big one. I thanked everybody already for their incredible gift of their own funding and their own pocketbook on the referendum. That's huge. So thank you for that. I think also volunteering with programs like Forward Scholars and other nonprofits will be another way to contribute. I think having your businesses contribute. I'm hoping to be able to put together a program for our aspiring leaders where they have mentors from some of the big CEOs within the Milwaukee area who can take one of our principals under the wing and be an executive who is an executive coach to them. So I don't have that program up, but we had that in Minneapolis. I found it tremendously supportive of my leadership when I was an assistant principal at Washburn High School in Minneapolis to have an executive coach who was from a local business. So that would be another way. I can think of 100 ways that the community could give back and participate and be part of what I hope is a very successful opportunity for our children moving forward.
Good afternoon, and thank you. My name is Luis Ayala, and I'm representing La Causa, which is actually one of your non-instrumentality charter schools under MPS. proud MPS graduate myself, so thank you.
Nice.
My question is around enrollment. So we've all seen the trend of the enrollment here at the state of Wisconsin and at the national level. And reports have indicated the reasons being demographic shifts and declining birth rates. What can you tell us about your view of enrollment as it pertains to MPS and some of the initiatives that you plan to employ to hopefully mitigate this decline?
Well, I think that's true. There is a demographic shift. Our young people just are not having children or having children later in life. That is a reality, and the demographics show us that this is true. I do also think that we have a job to do in MPS for people to remark positively about our school system, and that's just being honest. I think that we have to reestablish trust with our community, we have to show results, and we have to get out in our community, and we need to bring our community in to see our schools. We have a lot of great schools. And so, you know, we have 156 schools, you hear about one on the news, and then we think that that's all of schools, and it's not. You know, there are many, many great schools. We have some of the top schools in Montessori. Matter of fact, they're having their national conference here in Milwaukee and highlighting some of our schools during that time next spring. There is just a great amount that we have international baccalaureate for our students. I met a Rufus King alumni here who's doing great things within the community. And we have a number of schools in the arts programming as well as tech ed. So there's great promise in Milwaukee. It's about us telling our story, and it's also about getting people in our schools. That executive program, for instance, paired with the principal, will get executives in our schools, and then they will be able to see the schools and partner with our schools and actually get firsthand knowledge, and then they will be like, oh, this is really a jewel of a little school. You know, and be able to see our kids interact with the teachers and our leaders.
We have time for one more quick question.
Hi, Dr. Cassellius. Hi. First and foremost, I just want to say thank you for being here and thank you for being so present in the community. You have made it very clear that you are here to serve kids and to really be partners with all of us in the community, and I thank you for that. I'm Carrie Streif-Stussy. I am a Milwaukee resident. I am a proud MPS parent, and I am also the executive director of Forward Scholars. And I'm very thankful for Dr. Cassellius, who is looking deeply and closely at programs in MPS to see what is working. She's looking at data. She's making decisions based on what's best for kids, and I'm truly thankful for that. And having someone come up and ask what they can do to, as Rotarians, to support, I felt compelled to come up here and say, you can tutor with us. All you need is 1 hour a week, and we can provide a meaningful connection, one-on-one connection with a child. If you have any questions or want more information, Kent Laverne just had his relationship building session yesterday with his student that he shares with Steve Chevalier, and there are people here that can help you and provide information if you need that. So please come out and be in the schools. There are beautiful things happening.
Yeah, I also want to just say another way to really help is we can't be in the place we are this fall with 100 vacancies. It's just not acceptable to have children not have a permanent, caring, and loving teacher in their classroom. And so if you know classroom teachers, if your own children are going to be teachers, if you know of anybody out in connections at the universities that you serve, just your own conversations with neighbors, you know a teacher who's teaching in Wauwatosan or wherever else they're teaching, tell them to come to MPS. And we'll make sure we hook them up with D'Amico, who is like a really awesome chief of HR, and we'll get them through the system so that they can come and see the joy and brilliance that our children have each and every day. So thank you so much.